So the Xbox user interface is something that continuously is getting updated. We've seen some changes to it. Nothing huge has happened, I would say, from the beginning of this generation. There's been minor tweaks here and there just to make the quality of life of it better and the user experience better. But one of the things people always talk about is that main page when you launch in, and basically more space to be able to actually see the backgrounds that you have, especially since they've added so many dynamic backgrounds. They've added the ability for when you go from tile to tile, the background does change. And there are some beautiful pictures out there that kind of get overshadowed by all of the apps and all the tiles that are blocking it. And then the other major thing here when it comes to the Xbox user interface, especially for people who do subscribe to Xbox Game Pass Ultimate, is ads on the homepage for your Xbox UI. People will just love to see the tiles that they want to see, the games that they have pinned. And I agree, that would be the optimal way for the Xbox UI to function. But of course, that's not how it works because they have to put in the advertising. They make money off of putting advertising on there. Xbox isn't going to throw that money away, at least not as of right now. But potentially in the future, if enough people talk about it, but we will see. But there is one thing that has been added here for Xbox insiders. It's kind of weird. And I feel like as of right now, insiders who do have this, if they provide enough feedback, maybe they will go back and change this to make it better. But you can now remove tiles on the dashboard. As you can see here, this is where full amount of tiles are showing up. And to be honest, this does look the best, in my opinion, comparatively to some of the pictures we are seeing here. Like you can select 4 tiles and you can select, I think, up to 5 or 6 or something along those lines. In fact, if we do go over here on Tom Warren's Blue Sky, it shows you can select 4, 5, 6, 7, or 8 tiles to show up on the main page here for your Xbox dashboard. But it just looks weird. And this could be easily solved by removing, I think, this bottom bars here, these 4 tiles at the bottom that are basically just advertisements to go to the publisher sales, claim your perks for Xbox Game Pass, check out the store, see new releases and things like that. This UI could be very, very sleek if all it had were your game tiles on this upper row that you have decided to pin, and these move down to the bottom where you can really see the entirety of the picture that you do have. Because realistically, the user interface, I think at least on Xbox, is good. It functions well. It's easy to find things. Overall, I do enjoy it, but there are features here, again, especially if you're paying for Xbox Game Pass Ultimate, that could easily just make consumers much happier. And this isn't a hard thing to do for Xbox, but they haven't done yet. I mean, they don't do it because they want people to go into the store to purchase more products. They want people to see that there is a sale that has 90% off and go ahead and buy those games. I mean, there's even the ads that do pop up with the full screen ad, which I don't really care too much about, but some people really make a huge deal about that because you have to press B when you do turn on your Xbox. And the sales themselves are decent, and I actually go and check them out, but there has to be another way for them to be able to do this to give that just beautiful, sleek user experience here without having all of the advertisements under there. But as of right now, with this insider thing, I mean, I don't see me having only pinned 4 tiles there unless you got rid of the ads, because it does kind of look weird. And that's kind of what I think the general reaction to this is. But we have some comments here. This person says, it's a slight improvement, sure, but clearly we all wanted to use this to remove the giant tiles below the game ones. I mean, that is the obvious thing there that, I mean, I've talked about that. They say, how about you let me remove those ads? I'd like to not see ads. They just bring back the old UI. It was so customizable and useful. Now have a effing Microsoft store instead of a homepage. This is stupid. They really need to do something about their dynamic backgrounds. They had them first gen, but the PS5 blows theirs away. This is much nicer to look at. That's awesome. So generally there are some positive comments, but majority of the comments are people commenting on the ads. Get rid of the ads, which I'm very skeptical that Xbox, Microsoft are going to do that. But you would think if enough people talk about it with subscription to Xbox Game Pass Ultimate, maybe this would be something that gets more people to potentially subscribe. They may go out and do it, but we will see. they're making the improvements better on the Xbox user interface. Hopefully gets to a place where everyone is just happy with what is delivered to them. Okay, let's talk Marathon. We all know the story behind Marathon with the stolen art and the debacle around that. Then you had the art director going on a stream, and that was just terrible. It was a very, very bad look for Bungie with all the comments and everything. They have done absolutely nothing correct here with Marathon in terms of PR, in terms of marketing, in terms of getting this game ready for release. And the obvious thing that comes to mind because of that is to delay this game. Now, we haven't heard anything. It is still slated for September. I think the biggest thing that is actually going against Marathon isn't even the decisions that they have made, although that will hurt it. It is the fact that we have another big extraction shooter here that is going to take it on that I think a lot more people do want to play. And that upcoming game is Arc Raiders, which has already done very well in terms of getting people hyped, word of mouth marketing, when videos going out on social media. It looks like it is going to be the one that most people go to. So you have to ask yourself, what is Bungie thinking right now? I think releasing it in September is a terrible move. I think they absolutely should delay it, but they probably have a lot of things in making that decision, and Sony would have to greenlight that, especially because they would probably be asking for more resources, time, and money spent on this thing to get it into a better state, and probably to change up a lot of stuff here to potentially change people's reaction and mindset surrounding Marathon. We have this here, though, that Marathon marketing is reportedly canceled as the game delay rumors circulate. So this is from Insider Gaming. They say now it has been claimed that Marathon has canceled all planned paid marketing, suggesting that a major delay or even a full-scale cancellation, which would be insane, is on the horizon. Marathon was due to be released on September 23rd, but this latest debacle has thrown the hype train clean off of the rails. This is reported here by the Sacred Symbols podcast and Colin Moriarty, explaining here that I was told by someone familiar with marketing plans in a key overseas market that there are now no plans to do paid marketing for Marathon at all. I don't know if those plans were affected by what was recently happened or if this was always the plan or whatever, but it is considered a fairly unusual move for a game of this high profile. So there you have it. I guess the key thing there is that he's not sure why they are doing this, but if you're hearing about this now, I would make a relatively, I think, strong guess that it is because of everything that has gone on. There's been calls for this game to be delayed. People want this game basically canceled because of everything that has happened. So we potentially, which is blowing my mind a little bit, because when they first showed off Marathon, before all the controversy, I thought this game would have a crowd. I didn't think this was going to come close to a Concord situation. It's Bungie. People are going to jump in and play. And we know Bungie can make some fun FPS games. The gameplay from people, what they have said, was good. Like, it was fine. It was fun, but it wasn't going to be a massive extraction shooter, a massive multiplayer experience that did crazy numbers, but I think it would have had enough of an audience to be successful. Now I'm completely changed my mind on that. Everything that we have seen, it looks like this could potentially be a Concord situation, which is mind blowing. I don't hope that for it all, because what would that mean for Bungie? Could this be the end of Bungie? And PlayStation is out there probably very, very concerned if they have to have another Concord situation, especially from the studio that they went out and made that major acquisition for, which was supposed to be the studio to push PlayStation more into the games as a service, multiplayer genres, and bring in that reoccurring revenue that they do need. I've seen people online saying that they don't need multiplayer games. They don't need to go out there and make this stuff. They do. That's just the reality of it in today's gaming industry, because they need more money coming in to support creating those big AAA single player, third person cinematic experiences that they do make, which they are great at. They need something in there that they can look at and say, well, if one of these games doesn't go good, we still have this year that's bringing that revenue, which will make the hit of a game failing a little bit less. So we will see, because Concord, all of the cancellations, something's got to hit with them. And what will that be? And then you have Fair Games as well. And who knows what's happening with Fair Games at this point. So they are in trouble right now. And Marathon could dig them into a deeper hole. All right, Battlefield 6. I'm very excited for this. I think the game looks phenomenal. There's going to be a Battle Royale mode in this game. We have more information on this. This is via a data miner who has discovered more information about the Battle Royale game, including the storyline, gameplay features, and the oversight system, which allows eliminated players to stay engaged with the action. Specifically, this is what they say from data miner Tempo Royale, reporting that the remaster of Operation Firestorm in Battlefield 6 has been revealed as the previously unknown locations in Turkmenistan. Its description suggests that it will also be integrated into the main lore surrounding the conflict between NATO and Pax Armada. And Firestorm, which I remember playing, I actually kind of enjoyed that one, was the Battle Royale game mode for Battlefield 5. Rumors suggest that BF6 uses the same ring of fire that closes in on the map. I actually really did like that ring of fire. I thought that was unique and better than other BR rings or whatever you want to call when they do close down on you. So that was pretty cool. They say Tempo Royale shared a long list of other features on Reddit, including the description for the storyline. So here's what it says. After an explosive disaster exposes a classified military R&D facility to attack by multiple unidentified PMC groups, the handler deploys an elite squad to secure the site before its secrets can fall into the wrong hands. Another feature is priority missions, where you can complete objectives, but other teams have an opportunity to stop you and steal your rewards, which is great to see that, because I find in BR game modes, the biggest thing that holds me back is just sometimes waiting for a conflict with another team or another player, and it gets boring. So if you're always on the go doing something, that is always a welcomed addition for Battle Royale for me. I don't play too many Battle Royale games, but that is something I need in there. It says completing a mission grants rewards like vehicle access key cards that can be used on powerful combat vehicles or custom weapon drops. And like Warzone, the game mode also features field upgrades, which are traits to improve your character. And additionally, you get one respawn shortly after the match starts, and there is a respawn tower similar to Fortnite if you want to bring a teammate back. The other key feature is the oversight system. Even after you die, you can use remote cameras, drones, and turrets to reveal enemies and wreak havoc from the afterlife. So that is what this Battle Royale game mode is looking like. They're probably setting this up to try to go directly against Warzone. Will it ever get as big as that? That's yet to be foreseen. I mean, right now, Battlefield 6, from all of the leaks that have been coming out from the people playing it, game looks very good. It looks like it could be the one that finally brings it back. And I've said this multiple times on this channel, but Call of Duty needs that. They need major competition where people are actually having to stop and think, which one do they want to jump into and play? Because I just don't think that's been there over the last couple of releases. Call of Duty has destroyed Battlefield. Will we ever get to a point again where they really do go hard against each other? This may be the beginning of getting back to that point. I hope so, because the game looks good and I can't wait to jump in and play. Finally, we'll end off with a couple of Nintendo Switch 2 stories here. First of all, one of the things that is interesting about the Switch 2 that I can't wait to try out when I do get my hands on my Switch 2 is going to be the mouse feature. How responsive, how well does it work, especially with games like Metroid Prime 4 and any first-person shooters out there, or games like Civ 7 on the Switch 2? How good will this feature work? From the previews, it does seem like it works relatively well. Well, now there's also another feature if you don't even want to use that, but you still want to use mouse controls, and that is that they are going to support standard USB mice, which I think is a good move here, because you take it in portable mode, you plug that thing in, and you're going to be able to use a mice with it, which is cool. They say the Nintendo Switch 2 will support standard USB mice in certain games. And we found this out during a special look at the upcoming Nobunaga's Ambition Awakening CE. Producer Michi Ryu was showing off the Joy-Con 2 mouse functionality. He then pulled out a wired USB mouse, plugged it into the Nintendo Switch 2, and continued playing. They say once you connect the USB mouse, a message will appear in the top left indicating that the mouse is connected. And they say when the USB mouse is connected, it takes priority over the Joy-Con 2. So there you have it. Looks like that is just going to work, and it should be seamless. They say the USB mouse used in demonstration was a wired one, and there was no mention whether a wireless mice will be able to be used. I feel like Nintendo is smart. They just do that. They just allow you to use wireless mice. But at the same time, they also may think, because Nintendo is being Nintendo, that it could take away from sales of Joy-Cons. People wanting to buy extra Joy-Cons or whatever, if there's more mouses that could be used in games that could have multiple different people using the mice feature. So who knows, but it's good. At least we know that there is the wired feature that you're going to be able to use with this if you don't want to use the Joy-Con as the mouse itself. I feel like they've probably done a good job with making the Joy-Con work, and that will always be just the easier, more convenient solution because it's right there. But if you want to carry around a mouse, you're going to have that option as well. And finally, the Nintendo Direct. We should be getting more of these. We'll probably get a couple this year, maybe one near the release of this console, which is this is the report, and one later on in the year. But we have here saying the Nintendo Direct will reportedly drop around Switch 2's launch. And this is according to journalist Pedro Henrique Lutilipe, who made the claim during a live stream this weekend and previously has shared accurate info on Nintendo's plan. So take that for what you will, whether that is true or not, we will see. But I feel like if they do a direct right near the release, it's going to be just giving us a look forward into more games coming over to the Nintendo Switch 2 and a lot of cross-generational games. The Nintendo Switch 2 launch is very close. I'm very excited for it. And it's going to be extremely interesting how it goes and what games are coming over to that platform, specifically when you look at Xbox, them putting games on PlayStation 5. We haven't heard or seen the games that are coming over to the Nintendo Switch 2, but the rumors are out there, and some pretty prominent leakers have said a lot are coming over. We've seen the thing about Halo, the Master Chief Collection, which to me, if you're Xbox and you want to make money off of a game that's been out for very long and you know it'll sell well, I think it's a no-brainer, and I think people on the Switch 2 will buy that. It will run very easily simply because of the games that are within that collection. The Switch 2 will have no problem getting those. You have the mouse feature as well on that, so you could play it in both ways. But there's that, and then there's all the games that have come over to the PlayStation 5. Are those coming over to the Switch 2 as well? Can they even run on the Switch 2? Like, could they get Hellblade 2 running on there at very, very low settings? Who knows? But I can't wait to see just what other games are coming over here. First party Nintendo stuff coming from third party, stuff coming from Xbox. It'll be a very interesting launch on June 5th. So Xbox Game Pass has been insane this year. Probably the best year ever. This may be going down as one of the best years ever in Xbox history just because of the sheer amount of content that we have been getting consistently, and the content has been great. And we're coming up to the Xbox showcase in just over a week or so here on June 8th, where we will be seeing ton of new content. And the funny thing is we've already gotten announcements over these last week or so that you would think could have been held at the Xbox showcase. For example, the Xbox Retro Classics, the Space Marine remaster. Those are things you think that they would have added into the showcase, but they've given those announcements earlier. So you have to wonder what is going to be at this showcase. Just how big is it going to be? What things that we don't know about are they going to show off? Are we going to see anything on hardware, handhelds, operating systems, all the stuff that potentially could be there, but still a lot of questions to be answered. But the other thing that we know we will see is Xbox Game Pass content on top of everything that we already have. But here is how strong this next upcoming month and then to finish off May is going to be. We have May 29th, Metaphor ReFantazio, which is a phenomenal game, one of the best games from last year, dropping into the service here. We all know the whole story about Metaphor ReFantazio with the marketing deal and how that went very well for Atlas. And Sega and Xbox have a very good relationship that they do continue to grow. It seems like a lot of their games are coming over to Xbox Game Pass because the one that comes out after that is another Sega published game, Warhammer 40,000 Space Marine, the Master Crafted Edition, which again, this one has a story behind it too, because as of right now, this hasn't been officially confirmed, I don't believe, but it is not on the PlayStation 5. Will this just be something that does release on the PlayStation 5 at a later date? Is this just a marketing deal between now and potentially the Xbox showcase? Who knows? But right now it is a Xbox console exclusive in a time where reality is there really isn't that many, because Xbox is putting all of their games everywhere on the PlayStation 5, and I think they're going to be putting a lot of their games onto the Nintendo Switch too. So kind of funny here that a third-party published game is an Xbox console exclusive. June 13th, The Alters is dropping, and this one looks very interesting where you're playing in different versions of yourself and stuff. Kind of looks like a psychological thriller style of game, and we've seen, I think, a couple of previews on this, or people who have checked it out and said that it is looking pretty good. We have FBC Firebreak on June 17th, which is the game coming out here from Remedy, which is an online co-op game. And they've never really released anything like this, but I believe this is in the Control universe. absolutely will be trying this one out because they've done great stuff in the past. So I have a feeling that this one will be fun to play. Question is, will this hit and will it take off? With it being in Game Pass, there is a higher chance because people instantly get to go in and jump in and play. Then we have June 17th, Lost in Random, The Eternal Dice. I've never played this game, but there is, I believe, another Lost in Random game on Xbox Game Pass. And then June 19th, Rematch, which is a soccer game that comes from Slow Clap, which are the people that made Sifu, and they've had betas and stuff for this game already. People have been playing it, and it seems like this is going to be one that is going to go viral. I just have that feeling with this one because we've seen clips. People are very excited about it. They really enjoy it. They think that they've kind of hit it out of the park here with this arcade style of soccer game, multiplayer, all that stuff. Looks very cool. I'm excited to play Rematch. I'm going to be playing that one, I think, a decent amount. Looks like it will be a ton of fun. So as of right now, between now and June 19th, Game Pass isn't slowing down. It is phenomenal. And then we have to wait and see what gets announced at the Xbox June showcase on June 8th. Will there be more games coming in June? If not, I think we'll still be getting a lot of stuff here announced for the second half of this year. It's been a phenomenal year in gaming. So much to play that honestly, you're going to be playing a lot of these games way past 2025. That's much content has been coming out. So it's going to be great to just see what everything that does unravel between now and the end of the year. Hellblade 2, we know now, is coming to the PlayStation 5. Again, not really surprised about this one, especially with the direction that Xbox is going. And I don't think Hellblade 2 was that successful commercially. The first Hellblade was also on PlayStation 4, so there's already an established audience there on PlayStation that will be interested in playing this one. My biggest question with this game dropping on PS5 is, will it be as successful as the recent games that have dropped that we have seen, such as Forza Horizon 5 and Indiana Jones, which are topping the charts on PlayStation? If you've been waiting, however, for a physical version of Hellblade 2, it looks like it is now going to be happening for both Xbox and for the PlayStation 5 with limited run games, which I'm not a big fan of limited run games. Everyone goes to them now when we get these box versions of games. I wish there would be a different publisher out there because of those shipping charges here for Canada just aren't very good, and things end up costing a lot from them. But we have Xbox and Ninja Theory, Senua Sega Hellblade 2 is finally getting a physical version coinciding with its upcoming PlayStation 5 ports. They say here that now following Hellblade 2's PS5 announcement last week, ratings board ESRB has listed a version of Senua Sega with physical games firm limited run games as publisher, with PlayStation 5 and the Xbox Series listed as formats. And a second ESRB listing suggested limited run is planning a physical version of the original Hellblade game for the Nintendo Switch. This was something that when Hellblade 2 did drop, it obviously wasn't a full price game, but there were people out there that wanted a physical version of this for their collection and they didn't get it. They were upset about it. Now it looks like it is going to be coming. So if you've been waiting for this, now is the time. You know there's going to be the people out there saying, well, why did they have to release it on the PS5 to get this to happen? But the reality is, Xbox, out of all three of the big players in the console game, Nintendo, PlayStation, Xbox, is by far the most digital. Like, they've gone and pushed digital first and foremost more than PlayStation and Nintendo, although PlayStation is extremely digital now, and they're going to be moving away from physical, I think, completely anytime soon here. I mean, we've already seen that with the PS5 Pro not coming with a disc drive in it, and Nintendo Switch 2 is really pushing all digital now. And I think the Nintendo Switch 2 doing that kind of signaled the end of physical gaming as we know it. I mean, most of the games releasing on the Switch 2 are going to be those game key cards, which has nothing on the cartridge itself, at least from the third-party manufacturers. So there really is no point in ever picking up digital games going forward if that is going to be the case. So unfortunately, that is where we're going if you're a fan of physical games. I am a fan of physical games, although I have definitely adopted a big digital library here going forward, and we'll only try to pick up the physical versions of games that I want to have in my collection. But now I'm even more cognizant as to actually what is on the disc itself. If there's nothing on that, then I just don't even care anymore. It'll just simply be trying to find the stuff that does have content on it that I do want in my collection. And at that point, it's going to be becoming fewer and fewer games, which is a sad thing for people who do like having those games on their shelves. Gears of War Reloaded game is going to be coming out here. And this to me, when they first announced it, I was hoping they would do a different Gears, or I was hoping they would even just do like the Marcus Phoenix collection that we've been hearing a lot about. But I will still absolutely play this again. I will still absolutely jump into the multiplayer for it. It looks like there's going to be a beta that is going to be happening ahead of the Xbox release here. This comes via Reddit, and it is now listed here as PenPL. This is what the beta is being posted as for the Gears of War Reloaded. This is from Neon Velocity here on Blue Sky saying, I'm excited to be able to play the Pen PL beta. And if you go through here, it has the Gears of War Reloaded logo and everything. And this is within the Steam database. Now, they do say here that the Steam database entry doesn't mention anything about a release date for the Gears beta, but we'd expect it to arrive pretty soon. So yes, with this game, I believe it launches in August for PS5, Xbox, and everything like that. So it should be coming relatively soon to get ahead of that release date. So I will be playing it. If they have a beta, hopefully it's an open beta where everybody can just jump in and check it out and just kind of see the advancements that the Gears of War Reloaded has created. And the Gears of War multiplayer is a ton of fun. And now the community for it is going to be even bigger as it is releasing on these multiple platforms. All right, let's jump over here. Let's talk PlayStation. There is actually a slew of very interesting and I'd say good PlayStation news here. First of all, we have seen this marketplace of consoles in terms of pricing just kind of get out of hand with the pricing of the PS5 Pro. Then you have the Nintendo Switch 2 come out, which people were kind of upset about. Then the worst of them all, I would say, was Xbox raising their prices on a console that is already not selling as much as the PlayStation 5, which signals to me that they may not care that much at all at actually selling these things by raising the prices and being ahead of the PS5 at raising the prices. Now, I do think the PS5 pricing will change. I thought they would go up, and it still may happen that way. But there is some information here that they are going to be actually announcing discounts on the PlayStation 5 for their days of play deals, which to me is a great thing. I mean, out of all the three manufacturers, they're the ones out here reducing their prices, which we have not seen. And that is a good thing. It says here that this is the list of days of play video game discounts. There's lots of discounts on the games itself, but there's also hardware discounts. And this is where things do get interesting. We look here at the PlayStation 5 itself, the VR2, all of that is getting a discount. So first of all, there's a 13% discount on the PSVR 2 Call of the Mountain bundle going down to $350. The PS5 Pro console is going from $700 to $650. And then we get even more interesting here. Xbox and PlayStation are teaming up to sell PlayStation consoles. They're getting a Call of Duty bundle here. So the bundle for this thing, for the Call of Duty standard PS5 bundle, is going to be $450. That comes with like the disc drive and everything. The Call of Duty digital bundle here for the PS5 digital is going to be $400. Now those prices don't really change, but it is coming here with Call of Duty. So interesting stuff there, but not surprising, especially with everything that happened with the ABK acquisition. And then they had to sign and do concessions with this stuff. And the fact that Call of Duty with Black Ops 6, I think this was the last game that was moving away from marketing rights on PlayStation. They're getting a bundle here with Call of Duty, which we haven't even seen a real bundle with Xbox for their consoles. And now I wonder going forward next year with the Xbox consoles, since they don't have to really think about those marketing rights and the deal that PlayStation has with Call of Duty anymore, because Xbox did say that they were going to continue to honor that. Will they come out strong at the launch of Call of Duty and try to sell it with the next upcoming Call of Duty game to push more of the consoles that way? If they don't do that, that will be kind of funny to see, because I think it is a no-brainer. You take Call of Duty, you plaster it all over the Xbox boxes going forward, and people will walk in and pick those up. It will sell and push consoles as a game that does do that, especially when you can advertise things like up to 120 FPS on something like the Xbox Series S. Something I've talked about here before, but as of right now, looks like it's going to be the last one, unless more deals do end up happening where they decide to push PS5 consoles here with Call of Duty Black Ops 6. Who knows? But some interesting stuff there with the consoles. They're reducing the price of the PS5 Pro. What else is funny about that is you had people on Twitter and stuff saying go buy a PS5 Pro right now before they raise the prices for the PlayStation 5 Pro. And this was after Xbox had raised their prices. And it looks like those people kind of struck out because now there's a $50 savings on the PlayStation 5 Pro. This is for days of play only, though. So when days of play does end, I wonder if that changes. And after this, they will raise the prices like everybody else out there. Who knows? But as of right now, good for them for actually dropping the price of the PS5 Pro. Now, we also have some information here that I think this needs to happen. And if it does happen, I will be very happy about this. This is something that I was hoping that they would do more of. And again, this could just be rumors because all of this stuff has not been confirmed. And we really haven't seen very much evidence of them actually wanting to do this. And this has to do with backwards compatibility, and the backwards compatibility that will actually upgrade PS3, PS2, and PS1 games. This is according to a new report. And the report comes from Moore's Law is Dead, who's had reliable sources in the past, but has also gotten stuff wrong. Particularly, he was, I think, one of the people that pushed the RDNA 3 thing on the PlayStation 5, which was kind of funny. But it says here, as many PS5 Pro owners will know, PSSR, PlayStation Spectral Super Resolution, is a specific type of upscaling technology Sony designed specifically for the PS5 Pro. And right now, in its current form, PSSR and PS5 Pro requires a base resolution of 864p, which means it does not work with games that have a base resolution of 720p or lower, which would be many PS3, PS2, PS1, and PSP games. But now these games are upscaled on PS5 Pro using more traditional methods, but not via PSSR, which is the superior method. All that said, according to Moore's Law is Dead, Sony is preparing an update for the PS5 Pro PSSR that will allow it to upscale these lower resolution games, which in turn means PS3, PS2, PS1, and PSP games will look and run better on the PS5 Pro, at least in theory. Again, take this with a grain of salt. Nothing here has been confirmed. But to me, if you're PlayStation, especially right now, with just the lack of first-party games output on their side, it is pretty dry overall. And they're canceling games as a service games. We have another debacle here with Marathon. You release this update, you do a whole thing about it. You have a PlayStation showcase that shows games that are coming out and showing this feature here. This will bring some life right now to PlayStation in terms of excitement about the future of releases, of what their console is going to be doing for people, because there are so many good PS3 games, PS2 games, and PS1 games. If we can get some nice upgraded versions of these games, similar to what we've seen Xbox do with their backwards compatibility, this potentially will push more people to just go pick up a PlayStation 5 Pro so that they can experience this. And then I would assume as well, going forward to the PlayStation 6, it would carry over there, and then you could have full backwards compatibility across all of the generations. I really hope this is happening, something I've been wanting them to do for a while, on top of bringing back older IPs such as like Infamous. I would love to see that game come back. Hopefully this is a step in that direction. And then finally, the handheld wars in gaming is going to be next generation. You're going to have the PC handhelds, you're going to have the Xbox handhelds, you're going to have the PlayStation handhelds, you're going to have the Nintendo Switch 2. And it looks like we have some more information here about the next upcoming PlayStation handle, which will reportedly use Samsung's 2nm process-based chip. This here comes via this person here, Dukin Lost Reeve. I don't know if I said that correctly at all, but this is what they do put out here. Exclusive on the PlayStation handheld, Sony is currently evaluating a new lower powered gaming SoC project internally referred to as Jupiter, and the chip is expected to be developed by AMD and fabricated using Samsung's Foundry's SF2P node, with mass production targeted for post 2028. The deal hasn't been finalized yet. It is still under review between Sony, Samsung, and AMD. And this is the source, they say their own. So again, take this with a grain of salt. But the reality is, this is what is being said, is being reported here by IGN as well. And I mean, I wouldn't be too surprised about this. We heard about that deal with the Nintendo Switch and Samsung, and the deal that they made to produce the Nintendo Switch 2 and stuff. So I wouldn't be surprised if more people do go over here to Samsung. But 2028, that is now going to be 3 years away. And I wonder if this means that they're going to have a staggered release here between PlayStation 6 and the handheld itself. Well, they'll release the PS6 potentially in 2027, then they'll release the handheld a year later. That also brings into question as to when Xbox is going to release their handheld. Are they going to have a jump on them by about a year to get that out there before PlayStation? It is very interesting that we're kind of going back here to handhelds. If you remember back in the day where there was like the Nintendo DS, 3DS, the PSP, and the PS Vita, kind of is reminding me of that. The obvious big difference now with the handhelds is that there's just one version of games. You're getting the same game no matter where you're playing. You're not having handheld versions of games that are actually different than the console versions, which I kind of actually liked. But it is still pretty exciting that we're moving back to having handhelds be a main player here, which I think is going to be the bigger players here over the at-home consoles by a large margin going into the next generation. If PlayStation and Xbox release an at-home console and a handheld, I would be shocked if the at-home console sold more than the actual handhelds themselves. And then you have the players like Steam with SteamOS that are doing big things in that space too. So very interesting times, very excited. I wonder if we will hear anything about the Xbox handheld at the Xbox Showcase. I kind of hope that we do, or they at least talk about it, maybe show off an operating system that will be in it. That would be a ton of fun. So yesterday we talked about the Lenovo Legion GO S SteamOS versus the Windows 11 versions. It was in a separate video, not in my morning one. So go check that video out if you'd like to. And one of my biggest drawbacks about handheld PCs is just simply the battery life. And Dave 2D showed off that with the SteamOS version of the Lenovo Legion GO S, he was getting about 6 hours of battery life on low intensive games like Dead Cells, a 2D game that really should have no problem getting at least that amount when you are sitting down and playing it. And it was cut in half on the Windows 11 version of it. It was basically showing here that the Windows 11 version just was not as well optimized. It was the worst version of these two handhelds, and SteamOS coming in there gave you a much better experience and more time to sit down and play with these devices. In my opinion, 4 to 6 hours is kind of what I'm looking for, depending on the game that you are playing on one of these handhelds, for me to really make it worthwhile to go out and purchase another one. I did have the Steam Deck, sold that off. I did have the ROG Ally, sold that off. Now I'm just kind of sitting here waiting to determine what is going to be my next big PC gaming handheld. I'm thinking it's going to be the Xbox One that will hopefully have a custom OS on it, but it could also be whatever we're going to see down the line here from Asus. What's their next one? The one with the Xbox button that did get shown off. That one does look interesting. Just is all going to depend on performance and the battery life for me to determine if I'm going to pick it up. But we do have a good update here from Carrie Golem from YouTube, and he shows off here that it really has nothing to do with Windows bloat as to why the battery life was poor on Dead Cells on the Lenovo Legion GO S with the Windows 11 version. It simply has to do with the OEMs and the optimization and the utilization of power that is just not done well on the Windows version. And with a quick change, you can actually get the 6 hours of battery life on a game like Dead Cells. So here is his tweet. It's a 2-minute video. I believe it is also up on his YouTube channel, so go check that out. But he just shows off what he does. He simply just changes the wattage on the Lenovo Legion GO S in the back end here. A very easy thing to do. Actually, he does it while he's playing the game, and then instantly he is getting 6 hours of battery life. He puts this out, PSA, Windows bloat isn't what you think it is. It does exist naturally, but it is not the reason for poor performance or efficiency. Dave 2D showed the Lenovo Legion GO S getting about 3 hours of battery life, and with a default setup, it's true, but it's also amazingly simple to get 6 hours. And he goes through and he shows how easy it is just by changing a simple setting here, changing it to 6 watts rather than it usually using around 15 to 16 watts when playing Dead Cells. And then instantly you are going to get the 6 hours of battery life. I actually got tagged in here to put this in my next video because it was an update I did not see before. I had previously made my video that was based off of the Windows Central article as well as Dave 2D's analysis as to what was going on. And to me, this is good news. This is good to see, but it still doesn't fully solve the issue, because the issue right now going forward with handhelds, I think, and I think a lot of people are in the same boat, is that they just want to have that easy pick up and play experience like they have on consoles. Like, that to me is the point of these things. The point of these things for most people isn't going to be to go ahead and tinker with base Windows on them. It's going to be turning it on, getting a beautiful experience, jumping into games and then getting out of games, being able to hit the sleep button and then turn it back on and be right where you left off. All of those things are going to make the best experience possible. And I believe Xbox can absolutely do this. I think they're in right now development of making a very nice streamlined OS that will be able to compete with SteamOS. We just have not seen it yet, and I hopefully will see it relatively soon. We do know that they have the compact mode, which I think is great, and there is going to be some sort of overlay on these upcoming handhelds that are coming from Asus, specifically because they have the Xbox button on the console itself. It has a physical button, so you know they're going to be integrating something. But I really, really hope that we do see soon how they're going to take the console user interface, put that on these PC handhelds, and give you that unique singular experience across all of these devices. So you don't have to go in and make a change like this. Yes, it's an easy change. If you have this device, I would definitely recommend going to watch it. But it doesn't, I guess, have to do with the Windows 11 bloat. It simply has to do with the manufacturers not optimizing Windows properly to be able to actually get these 6 hours or so of battery life, depending on the game that you are playing. As I said in my video yesterday, when I get a Windows handheld in my hands, I'm playing smaller games. I'm playing 2D games, games that don't have like the craziest graphics and everything, at least in the 3D form. So to me, I'm definitely looking forward to seeing how some of these games run. How long can you last to play them? So I'm not having to carry around a charger with me. But this is good news, a nice update here, and nice to see that it's not specifically the actual operating system that has caused this. All right, Dragon's Quest 1 and 2 HD 2D remakes are coming out, and they will be arriving on Xbox, and they will be arriving with Xbox Play Anywhere support, something that we have seen Square Enix support with other games out there. It looks like Square Enix is going to go down this route with most of their games, just based off of the history that we have seen with them, in supporting Xbox Play Anywhere, which I think is an awesome thing. So you buy this game once on your Xbox console or on your PC via the Xbox store, and you're going to be able to play it on any device that you want. I wouldn't be surprised as well if it does support cloud streaming and everything, where you're going to get it through the cloud for a game that you own, not through Game Pass. But very cool. They did announce this year the Dragon Quest 1 and 2 HD 2D remake will be arriving on the Series XS, PlayStation 5, Nintendo Switch, and the Nintendo Switch 2 and PC via Windows and Steam on October 30th, 2025. And it will receive Xbox Play Anywhere support, so you can continue your save file on your Xbox consoles, Windows PC, and the compatible handhelds. These HD 2D remakes are very cool. They've already done one version of this, I believe, for Dragon Quest 3. And now we are out here with the first and the second game. So awesome to see this is happening. Some of the coolest artwork that they have on these games on the cover. And I'm very interested in this. I do want to pick this up at some point. Not sure if it will be a day one game, but I'm very happy that it is on Play Anywhere. And again, this is why we need to see what's coming from the handheld space, from Xbox specifically, because to me, if I have a handheld with me and it is based off of the Xbox operating system and the games that I own on my console, I will be more enticed to pick up games via the Xbox ecosystem versus Steam, when I know that I can just really take that save file on every device. And especially if it goes into the cloud, I can take it on even more devices. So I hope this is the direction that most third-party publishers end up going. And I wonder how they make this decision. Are there deals behind the scenes as to why they choose Xbox Play Anywhere? Because you would have to think, if you are Square Enix, you probably would want to cash in on people buying it twice if they really wanted it on both PC and the console. But opting into this program does take that away. If you're looking for Metro 2033 Redux, it is now free through May 30th. So jump on there and pick it up. If you haven't, it was free and then they took it off, and now it's official that they've announced it. They say 15 years of Metro, grab Metro 2033 Redux for free through May 30th to celebrate. So just bringing that up in case you haven't seen this yet. Jump onto the Xbox store and you get to add that game to your library for free. All right. Expedition, Clair Obscur Expedition 33. I completed the game. My game of the year right now. I don't foresee really anything surpassing it as one of my favorite games that I think I've ever played, just in terms of the way that they did the story, the gameplay. It was absolutely a phenomenal game. And it was a game that released day one on Xbox Game Pass, which is crazy. This game has done a couple of things. It's brought to light a new form of turn-based RPGs which I wonder if more companies are going to copy in the way that they do the combat. It shows that if you have these more smaller owned down games that are really focused on great gameplay and great storytelling, you don't need the whole expansive size of games. Although there was an open world in this, it was just almost a perfect size that they were able to do, and it was very, very successful. And the other thing it really showed off was that the whole narrative about Game Pass cannibalizing sales, hurting games, was destroyed by this game. Not the first time this has happened. It's happened multiple times that narrative has been destroyed. But again, here with Clair, Obscur, Expedition 33, it was. And even more so now, as they have announced that they have reached 3.3 million copies sold, even though this game did launch day one into Xbox Game Pass. Handheld Interactive announced this. They said, "We couldn't make that up. Another entry on the long list of surreal moments that your support has made real. Thank you all." Announcing here that they have sold at 3.3 million copies. Absolutely deserved. I cannot wait to see what comes next here from Handheld Interactive, because this game was phenomenal. And it's actually just crazy to think about that so many people got to experience it that potentially didn't even buy it on Game Pass as well. So the amount of people that played this game is probably much higher here even than 3.3 million. Or yesterday we talked about PlayStation lowering prices on the PlayStation 5 Pro. It is now official. This is all a part of PlayStation's days of play. They've lowered the prices. Xbox raised the prices. The Nintendo Switch 2 launched at a price that was higher than people had expected. And good for PlayStation here. They're coming out here and actually lowering the price, specifically of the PS5 Pro, as well as giving a bunch of deals for their days of play. Something they do every single year. So this isn't like a new promotion or anything, but it is definitely good to see. They also announced the games that are coming over for the month of June for PlayStation Plus, and it's a pretty good lineup. NBA 2K25, Alone in the Dark, Bomb Rush, Cyberpunk, which is like a Jet Set Radio clone, very cool game, and the Destiny 2, The Final Shape. And then they go down here and they announce some of the big deals that you're going to get here, 4 days of play, specifically deals on the PlayStation 5 consoles. Confirmed here that I guess you could say Xbox and PlayStation working together, because there's going to be a Call of Duty Black Ops 6 bundle. In fact, this is what it is going to look like. It is going to be all over the box for the PlayStation 5. Now, you may sit back and think, what's going on here? Why is Xbox doing this on PlayStation and on Xbox? And it is because as of right now, this is the last year that PlayStation actually has the marketing rights for Call of Duty. I would suspect that we will see something similar to this on the Xbox consoles next year with the next upcoming Call of Duty, because it's now over in terms of the marketing. This was the last one, and they're taking full advantage as to making sure that they utilize the last end of their marketing rights on trying to sell the PlayStation 5. So they're working together. Crazy times. The Xbox first party game is being put on the box of the PlayStation 5. Then we also have here that this is going to cost $399, which is not a discount. I guess you get the game thrown in there. But then the other thing here is that $50 USD is going off of the PlayStation 5 Pro console. So that is the deal. They're lowering the price, $50 off on the PS5 Pro. There's also deals on the PSVR 2, as well as some of the other accessories here for PlayStation. So they're reducing the price on some of that stuff. And in today's climate, with everything happening, with prices going up, with the whole tariff situation, you have to ask yourself, will this stay? Is this something just temporary, 4 days of play, or is this something that PlayStation will keep after the $50 do go off? I don't think it's going to stay. I think if you want a PS5 Pro, this is probably the time to buy it, because you're saving that $50. In fact, we have an analysis here from Daniel Ahmad here on Twitter, who is the director of research and insights at Nico Partners. He analyzes video games in Asia and MENA. And he says here why this is happening, or how this is happening. Stockpile of these consoles are prior to tariffs, plus the 90-day tariff pause, plus the resumption of shipments is allowing Sony to run deals this month. Sony already raised the prices in some markets, which is true. That is something that needs to be mentioned. They already did raise the prices in some markets. And then he says here that they are considering future increases. He says if no US-China deal by August 14th, the price increase is back on the table. So he is predicting here that there will be a price increase coming after this sale at some point during the summer. So if you want a PlayStation 5 Pro, now is the time to get it. I don't think you're going to be getting it cheaper anytime soon. At the worst, you'll get it back at its regular price, and even worse than that, you may have to pay even more if you don't end up picking it up during this days of play offer. But either way, good to see this deal, small deal, but a deal on consoles. Something that this is one of the craziest things this entire generation we have not seen. Price cuts. At this point in other generations, we would have had bundles, we would have had price cuts, we would have been able to get into this generation far cheaper. People would be picking up second consoles and stuff, but it's just not happening right now because of the climate, because of the market. And I feel like this is now the new normal for consoles. Even going into next generation, I don't know if we're going to see a price cut halfway through it. I think this is now the way that the industry is establishing itself on the console side. All right, couple more things to go over here. Star Wars Battlefront 2, for some reason, is smashing records all of a sudden. It broke its all-time Steam numbers. And there's a social media campaign going on that people want a new Battlefront. So that is, I guess, the main reason here. But it's just hilarious to see that this is happening right now. They say the game has seen a spike in popularity over the last week due to a social media campaign from Preamps attempting to revitalize interest in the series. It saw 18,635 players on Steam on Monday, the highest number of concurrent players achieved on the platform since it was released. The game was first released in 2017, then later released on Steam in 2020. So people want a third one in this series, and that's why they're jumping in there and playing it to kind of, I guess, get the attention of the developers to hopefully go out there and make another one. It would be cool. I am all for a Battlefront 3. If they do it right and they make it good, I'm all for it. I enjoyed the Battlefront games. The first one was obviously surrounded by a ton of controversy with the whole loot box thing. Then they came out here with Battlefront 2, which did better. And I would like to see what they would be able to do with a Battlefront 3. And then we have two more things here. Mario Kart World. This is going to be the big launch game for the to switch to. I'm a big Mario Kart fan. I'm going to be playing the heck out of this. I mean, still play sometimes Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. So I feel like this Mario Kart World game is going to be one, again, like Mario Kart 8 that I play throughout the entire generation of the Switch 2. But I would not be shocked if this was developed for the Switch 1 and they're just deciding to put it on the Switch 2 as a launch game. We kind of have that confirmation here that they began developing the game for the Nintendo Switch 1 before deciding to release it with the Switch 2 on launch. This comes via their development team that was interviewed by Nintendo, which includes Kosuke Yabuki, Kenta Sato, Masaki Ishikawa, Shintaro Yukumaru, and Atsuko Asahi. I did my best with those names, so bear with me on that. It says Mario Kart World was intended for Nintendo Switch 1, not the Switch 2. They say specifically, we were thinking about what to do for the next Mario Kart game even during the development of Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, and we began prototyping in March 2017. It was at the end of the year when we officially started to work on it as a project. Continues here saying we worked on it while kicking the can down the road in terms of deciding what to give up on. So at some point we knew it was going to be messy. But as we decided to release Mario Kart 8 Deluxe Booster Course Pack, we thought that would give us a bit more time to continue development. That's when the conversation of moving it to the Nintendo Switch 2 system came up, and this suddenly opened up a bunch of possibilities of what we could do. It was truly a ray of hope. So Mario Kart World originally was going to be for the Switch 1. They bring it over to the Switch 2. And I think this is where they were probably able to add in a lot of that open world style of stuff and make it more kind of like the Forza Horizon in a Mario Kart world setting. And the game looks really, really fun. It's never going to blow anybody away graphically. I don't know why people always try to look at Mario Kart and laugh at it for its more kiddie graphics, you could say. It's like that is the aesthetic of the game. So I'm not sure why people are surprised by that, but I feel like this is going to be relatively deep in terms of the content on there right there on day one. From at least some of the stuff that they have shown off, it does look like it is going to be a ton of fun. And finally, another game flying under the radar that we're finally starting to see some more info for, some gameplay. There's been previews of it. That is MindsEye. I am actually quite interested in this game. I think it looks good, but the previews came out and people had said it was just not ready to be released and it needed to be delayed. They showed off a 6-minute video here of the game with a bunch of gameplay, what the story is about and everything. It doesn't look nearly as bad as the previews, but again, this just could be a specific vertical slice that is deceptive comparatively to when the game is launched. It's basically an open world GTA style of clone that seemingly has a more serious tone to it. And one of the big things that people are excited about for this game is that we have lots of minds behind GTA that have made it. And it is going to be releasing it for $60 on June 10th for the Xbox Series, PS5, and for PC. I think the game looks pretty cool. I mean, there's a whole building system in it and stuff. And there's just a lot to it from what this video did show off. It's just always hard to believe that it is going to land when a game that you think could have a huge push behind it, big marketing behind it, getting people excited about it, just kind of drops out of nowhere. Generally, that means they aren't very confident in the game and that it is going to be buggy, it is going to be bad at launch, but they need to push it out for financial reasons, for shareholder reasons, all of those sorts of things. And then they'll update it later down the line. But we will see. Fingers crossed that they just decided not to market it, and it's going to be great when it does launch on June 10th. So as we know, the Xbox showcase is just around the corner here on June 8th. It's coming up fast, and it is going to be very exciting. The last few years from Xbox and their showcase, they have basically, I would say, dominated these showcases in the summer. They have blown people away with what they have shown off. I would say it's really not even close comparing the Xbox showcases to other showcases. It's been better than Summer Games Fest and anything else that has been out there. And I think a lot of this also has to do with the shutdown at E3, where you don't really see PlayStation and Nintendo taking the Summer Games Fest seriously and coming out with the big event. And it looks like it's going to be another year of that, as Xbox Game Showcase is going to be, I believe, the major highlights of this year's summer showcases. What are we going to see here? That is the question. We do have a couple of hints here, potentially from Jez Corden and Windows Central, of some stuff that could be showing up. We also have some info on Everwild, a game that I do hope finally gets another reveal here. It's 2025. This game was revealed a long time ago. We need to see more about it, but here is some of the interesting stuff pulled from this article. The Xbox Showcase 2025 preview, and it's what I expect to see from Microsoft's big annual games blowout. Some of the stuff we already know that is happening. That is one of the main things that you can definitely look forward to. We're going to see Outer Worlds 2, a lot more on that game. We have already known that games are coming over to PlayStation 5 and the Nintendo Switch. So, games like Gears of War Reloaded, we may see more of that at the showcase. We may see Xbox emphasize some games here that are going to be dropping onto Xbox Game Pass. That's one of the things that I've thought about recently, is that we've had already tons of announcements for Game Pass. They're still coming out with new games that are dropping into Game Pass, such as the Space Marine remastered game. And we aren't even at the showcase yet. So they may have new announcements and highlight stuff coming out further along in the year for the second half of 2025 of games to look forward to in the service, because the first half has been phenomenal. You have to ask yourself, how are they going to keep this up for another 6 months of it being this strong? And I think they must have a plan up their sleeve, and June 8th is going to reveal that. So that's stuff that we kind of already know and should expect, but there are other games here like Everwild, which I actually think it is finally going to show up at the showcase for, simply because we've been hearing more positivity around it. We have another article here where they feel strong about the game. So it sounds like they're kind of ramping up and getting ready to show it off and get people excited to see what this game is all about. Very interested in what is coming here from Rare. Obviously, after the massive success of Sea of Thieves, they're going to have a lot to live up to here with Everwild. The other thing that is interesting is we do know there's lots of games like Contraband. We still need to see that one. Who knows what's happened with that one? That's a third-party deal game, but it is here being published by Xbox. State of Decay 3 we may end up seeing. But one game that has been in the rumors, and it would blow me away if this does come out this year, especially with the lineup of games that Xbox already has, but with Fable being delayed, you kind of are starting to think this may be the one to fill the void, in that of Gears of War E-Day. It says this could be an unexpected hit, so be sure to keep an eye out. Gears of War E-Day is likely to appear as well, given that there have been rumors of it launching within the next calendar year. If this does happen, that would be wild. And it does look more and more like that could be the case with the whole Gears of War Reloaded and getting people kind of back into Gears, even though it is a second remaster of the first game. They're going to build that online community. They're going to build new fans from PlayStation 5 and everything. So now launching Gears of War E-Day with Gears of War being top of mind for a lot of gamers could make sense here if they do launch it in the last few months here of 2025. It would be incredible to see. I would drop everything to go ahead and play it because Gears is one of my favorite franchises of all time. So I am crossing my fingers that this is something that we do get to see. 2025 has already been massive. If it doesn't happen, it's fine because I have so many games to play. But the rumors more and more are pointing towards this being the case, especially with them moving Fable out of 2025. They are going to fill the void one way or another, whether that is a first party title or that is going out there and getting more Game Pass deals. And I feel like that is going to be revealed here on June 8th. The other thing we may end up seeing is what is next year from Double Fine. We know that they have been working on projects and it looks like they may be ready to debut their title. And if you're a Final Fantasy fan on Xbox, we probably, potentially, I'm not sure what is the best way to describe it, but maybe getting the announcements here for Final Fantasy 7 and 16 landing on the Xbox. It's just a matter of time. Those games are coming to Xbox. It's just a matter of time because we know Square Enix, their plan and what they want to do with their games and move away from console exclusivity. They want to go multi-platform. The reality is they're dealing with a contract right now. So whenever that contract allows them to put it on Xbox, I think it is going to land there. I feel like that is coming to an end here, and that will be something that does get announced. But again, we will see on June 8th. So that is some of the big things that we can expect. And there's obviously the other stuff that we will see. Game Pass announcements, features, probably a lot about the online games that they have, like the Elder Scrolls Online. So lots there that will be happening. But I think a lot of people still want to know about hardware. Will we see any next-gen hardware at this showcase? And I think the most common thing that people are expecting to see here is going to be Project Kennen, which is this thing here that has basically already been revealed. It was leaked, and it is the Asus ROG Ally made specifically for the Xbox ecosystem, has an Xbox button, has some Xbox handle-like controllers here on the sides, which I actually like that. People may think that's bulky, but I know from my style, I like bigger grips on these PC handhelds just because I have relatively bigger hands. And if it's too thin or it's not very big to grab onto, my hands fall asleep. It fell asleep with the Nintendo Switch. I had to get new Joy-Cons, bigger ones to play with. So hopefully this actually is something that does come out. But Project Kennen, we have seen a lot and heard a lot about it. Will they finally fully reveal this? And potentially, will they give us a little bit more insight about the future of Xbox creating their own console or their own first-party handheld? And will they show off operating system or something out there that really turns these handhelds into a console-like experience where you're not navigating a desktop Windows 11 to launch games and everything? They've made a ton of changes already with the Xbox PC app with the compact mode. And if you go into xbox.com/play, you go to the cloud gaming stuff. It works great. I mean, it's fine. And I like what they're doing there. They're continuously improving that and really making it more of a one-to-one experience between the console and wherever else you play Xbox. So will they expand on that, talk about more features, and show that off a bit more? Who knows, but it is coming up here, and I'm very, very excited for June 8th and the Xbox showcase. I will be streaming it, so definitely make sure to come by and watch with me. But Gears of War E-Day, if that does get announced, that is going to be crazy. The other game here, Everwild, is one that I do hope does show up. Well, apparently there is strong confidence in this game. This here says that this comes via Windows Central as well from Jez Coring, saying, my most recent inquiry suggests that the game is now on track and has strong confidence from Microsoft producers. We could potentially see Everwild at this show. So will Everwild show up? I have a feeling, like I said, it will end up showing up there, and that this game has really gone past where we were seeing a lot of articles come out, a lot of negativity surrounding it having to be rebooted. We also had Matt Booty kind of shut that down, saying that was over exaggerated. I feel like at this point they've moved past that and that they're getting closer and closer to be able to show this off. Now, one studio that I don't think we're going to see much from is going to be Machine Games. We did see this here pop up from Timur 222. he found on LinkedIn that apparently Machine Games actually canceled an unannounced project. So if they were going to show anything, maybe this was it. No idea what it is, but this is from a LinkedIn post. And you can see this person worked on Indiana Jones and the Great Circle, and they worked on a canceled unannounced project, whatever that may be. Could it be the Wolfenstein that they were working on? Who knows? But that's unfortunate that we won't really see anything from them, or at least it doesn't seem like we will. And I wonder if we'll ever find out what that unannounced project is. I hope the next thing they are working on is another entry into the Wolfenstein series. I feel like that is a no-brainer to do, but maybe that was something they were working on, got canceled, and they're moving on to another project that is completely different, such as Indiana Jones and the Great Circle, another something like that, an offset of what they were generally were making. So we'll see. But as of right now, something in the works is never going to be playable. Now, Xbox, they have added Copilot, and this basically just kind of helps you get through games, and you can ask it questions, and it will give you that AI companion that basically everyone is working on here and trying to put out there in the tech world. And now it is live for testing, introducing the whole AI companion thing here. They say here, a couple of months back, Microsoft publicly announced the Copilot for Gaming program to the world. It's a new AI tool that allows players to directly ask for game help through the Xbox mobile app. And it is now being tested, saying in this early version, beta testers can ask Copilot about any games, including the game they're currently playing, or ask for help if they get stuck. It can also answer questions about their Xbox activity, like play history and achievements, or even provide recommendations of what to play next. Here are some of the questions that you can ask and that they will be able to answer. This one specifically saying, hey, Copilot, can you remind me what materials I need to craft a sword in Minecraft? And they tell you how to do that. You ask them what you should play tonight. If you like horror movies, any suggestions of games to play, or if you're looking for a new RPG, it will give you that type of answer. So it is being tested here in the early beta version in all of these following countries. We'll see how this does integrate and how useful it will be. I mean, the reality is a lot of people in today's day and age in gaming, they just go to YouTube or they go online if they get stuck to figure out how to get past a certain section in a game. This seemingly is just going to make it easier. You can kind of be lazier because you can just ask it and it's going to tell you exactly what to do without having to do really any research or combing through videos at the exact spot that you're in within the game. So all that will be interesting to see. I think people will use it. A lot of people are against AI in all forms of gaming, but I think something like this will be something that is utilized by a lot of gamers out there. Now, the Xbox Showcase isn't the only big one. Of course, Summer Games Fest is coming. You have Jeff Keighley's show here, which is always good. But I do think the Xbox Showcase has been better over the last number of years. But from the Summer Games Fest, you can kind of expect to get more big third-party stuff that is going to be coming out everywhere to play. Lots of big announcements. He usually has one or two just massive announcements at his show. And now we do see here the partners that are participating. And Nintendo is returning, which is a nice addition. It makes sense because the Nintendo Switch 2 is coming out. Here are the partners. It's a pretty long list, so there's going to be lots of stuff to look forward to at this showcase. But some of the highlights here, you're going to have like 2K, 505 Games, Capcom. You're going to have Nintendo. PlayStation is going to be there. I wonder what they are going to be showing off, if it's going to be any big first-party stuff or just kind of a look of stuff that is already coming out, such as Ghost of Yotei. Sega is going to be there. Of course, Xbox is going to be there. You have Steam there, Square Enix. Like, there's a large list of stuff here. It looks like it is going to be a very, very good show, and I can't wait to jump in and see this one. I will be streaming this one as well, but there are record-setting 60-plus partners for this celebration here in June. So it's coming. We're a week away, basically, from one of the most exciting times to be a gamer, one of the most exciting times in the industry, where we start to see what is to come over the next number of years, what to look forward to the end of this year, going into 2026, and then sometimes even beyond that. A lot of games don't have release dates when they do show them off, so you can kind of assume it is beyond that, but there's always some massive stuff here that does end up dropping at these showcases. Another company who's really trying to get into gaming is Apple. They're taking somewhat of a different approach, or I think they're going more for like the smaller, more mobile soft games, which is a smart approach in my opinion, but they have come out here and they have bought their first game studio. They're getting in on the acquisition scene for gaming. They say, according to a new report from Giovanni Colantonio at Digital Trends, Apple has acquired RAC7 or RAC7, the studio behind Apple Arcade title Sneaky Sasquatch. And RAC7 is a two-person studio that also developed games like Dark Echo in 2015 and Splitter Critters in 2018. And Apple put out this message: we love Sneaky Sasquatch and are excited that the two-person RAC7 team has joined Apple to continue their work on it with us. We will continue to deliver great experience for Apple Arcade players with hundreds of games from many of the best game developers in the world. And apparently they are saying here the purchase is to help the team grow its game more on Apple Arcade. And I believe they're also saying this isn't something they're going to really do a lot of, which is these acquisitions, but this is the first one. They're also trying to kind of be more like Xbox with the Xbox gaming app, trying to follow in those lines. They say Apple's ready to replace Game Center with a more Xbox-like gaming app, specifically here saying that it will apparently replace Apple's Game Center feature editorial content and let you access games also available on the App Store. A 9to5 Mac report from last year described the app as working similarly to the Xbox app for iPhone. So they're trying to move more in that direction. Will they ever expand out past these smaller mobile games? I think especially right now with the way that the industry is going, you're seeing, or you saw companies want to move there. Then you saw all the layoffs. You've seen the profit margins harder to grow. You've seen it harder to make money overall in this industry with all the competition. You're seeing games fail and be canceled. That moving in like to a AAA space is pretty difficult here and probably not the best bet here. So Apple's probably just going to stick in what they know, which is going to be those smaller Apple Arcade style of games. If you're a fan of CD Projekt Red and games like The Witcher and Cyberpunk, the new ones are in development, of course. And now we fully know here that Cyberpunk 2 is in pre-production. They say CD Projekt Red is continuing to hire more developers to work on The Witcher 4, Cyberpunk 2, and other internal projects. During the company's Q1 2025 earnings report, it revealed the studio is up to 730 total developers, which is an increase from 707. So it's nice to see some studios actually hiring people, not just laying them off. And they also mention here that Cyberpunk 2 is in full pre-production. Specifically here saying, as far as a breakdown, 422 of them are working on The Witcher 4, which will be the next game from the studio, but it won't be released earlier than 2027. And then after The Witcher 4, 96 developers are now working on Cyberpunk 2, which is an increase from 84 in February as the game has officially entered pre-production. So we got some big things coming here from CD Projekt Red. I just can't wait to see how these turn out, especially because they're probably going to be ending up on next-gen hardware, on the next Xbox and PlayStation. So you can expect them to be pretty phenomenal. Hopefully they've learned their lesson from the release of Cyberpunk, which they tried to put onto the Xbox One and the PS4, which really hurt the initial launch of it because the games just did not perform well. We're also seeing them put Cyberpunk on the Nintendo Switch too. That is performing very well. Like, it is looking quite good for a relatively underpowered console, what they've been able to do with that game to have it running on the Nintendo Switch 2. One that, if you're just a fan of the game, you may want to check it out and see kind of how it runs stuff. I'm definitely going to look at these videos on that. May end up picking it up for the Switch 2 as well. So interesting stuff there. When it comes to the Nintendo Switch 2, one of the biggest things here with them is going to be obviously their first party stuff. Pokemon is a massive, massive game for Nintendo. And it looks like here that we have the announcement for the release date of Pokemon Legends ZA, which is confirmed to be coming to the Switch and the Nintendo Switch 2. It will be released here on October 16th. They say here that Pokemon Legends ZA hashtag Nintendo Switch 2 edition are launching on October 16th. So this means the one for the regular Switch and the Switch 2 edition. I wonder what the big upgrades will be between them, but this game should run better. One of the worst things here with the latest Pokemon games, which I have for the current Nintendo Switch, was just how badly that game ran and performed. But it's getting upgrades for the Switch 2. That's one that I'm probably going to check out and see the difference. Is it going to just be a much better experience here on the Switch 2? I have a feeling that it absolutely will. And finally, MindsEye. We talked about this yesterday. I was scratching my head about the marketing for it. This game looks cool. It's coming from people who have worked on GTA. And they could have done a really big marketing campaign around this and pushed this, and it just really hasn't been out there. The previews came out pretty negative simply because people thought this game needed to be delayed. It was not performing very well. Apparently, the CEO for this game is saying that people were paid to be negative towards the game. I don't know if I buy it, but that is what the CEO is saying. This is in a message posted on the game's Discord server. And this is the Build a Rocket Boy co-CEO Mark Gerhard. He believes that everyone saying negative things about the studio's upcoming game MindsEye are being paid to do so. Specifically, this is what he thinks, is all the people who reacted negatively were financed by someone. To that, he simply said 100%. And the server, seeing the questions and concerns about the claim, Gerhard posted a long message on the matter saying, I just said that there is a concerted effort by some people that don't want to see Leslie or Build a Rocket Boy be successful, that are making a concerted effort to trash the game and the studio. It's pretty easy to see the bots and the repeated replies to any content that we put out. He doesn't give any more context on this. It's basically his just thoughts. Technically, at this point, just a conspiracy because he doesn't have any proof as to whether that is happening or not. But I mean, you never know. I just don't really buy it. I mean, people went to previews and the previews came back from it and they said that the game just wasn't running very well, that it should have been delayed, at least from the stuff that I did see. So who knows? I have hopes for this one. It does look cool from the video that they just recently did put out. Looks like it's running a lot better than what we were hearing, but on the previews, but that could be just a specific vertical slice. That's very easy for a company to make it look better than it is. We've seen this happen multiple times within the industry. So this is one that's coming out soon. We don't have to wait very long for it. And we will know when it comes out, whether the previews and the people who are saying negative things about it were telling the truth or not. So obviously one of the biggest questions here is the future of the Xbox hardware, not whether there will be hardware, because there will be some form of Xbox hardware, whether that is via Xbox themselves making their first party manufactured at-home console and handheld, or whether we're going to be getting partner devices like we've already seen leaked with the Asus ROG Ally, specifically with the Asus ROG Xbox is what I'm calling it now, which is their handheld version with an Xbox button on it. It's going to be a complete integration into the Xbox ecosystem, and it also has some big handle controllers on the side if that's going to be the end consumer version of it. But there are still questions. There are still questions as to exactly what is Xbox going to bring. Is it going to be a traditional style of release going into the next generation? And then will there be consoles beyond that? My first thought is next gen is probably the last generation for hardware, just in terms of the way that the industry is going. It may not just be Xbox, but I think for Xbox specifically. But I'm hoping that they do some cool stuff going into this 10th generation. And one of my biggest hopes has been an Xbox handheld that they make themselves, not because I care about the hardware side of things, but because I feel like that would be the way that they are going to implement the Xbox operating system, which would be some custom OS that isn't a Windows 11 style of gaming PC that we have currently right now with the Xbox app, and you have just that overlay, but something that's going to allow you to get access to your console games, your PC games, and everything in between all in one place. Right now, you can't do that on Windows 11 PCs. You have different versions of these games, and there's still a lot of people who have Xbox console games that they've purchased years ago that are locked on the console. If they can get that to other devices, that will be a massive win, and I'm really hoping they continue down that road. But as of right now, there is a big report that is going around. The Xbox handheld itself that they're making in-house has been sidelined in replace to focus more on the Windows 11 PC gaming handhelds and optimization around that. This comes via Windows Central here, and it says exclusive Xbox's handheld has been sidelined for now as Microsoft doubles down on Windows 11 PC gaming handheld optimization. And specifically, I mean, they go through a bunch of stuff here. A lot of people, I think, read this headline only, knee-jerk reacted thinking that this means that this handheld is just completely done and they're not working on it at all anymore, but that's not actually what it says here. If you do read through the article, we'll go through it here. First of all, one of the things that is updated here is they say previously this article noted Pembroke as the codename for the Handheld, but that we've received clarification that this codename might be incorrect. Stay tuned for an update on that part. And the rest of the report remains unchanged. So specifically it says, I come to you today with some fresh news about Xbox's handheld plans. Previously, I reported that Microsoft was working on a native Xbox handheld alongside the Xbox Series X successor, planned to launch around 2027. It now seems that Microsoft's priorities have shifted somewhat. Microsoft still, this is the key thing, want to build their own Xbox handheld in the future, but Microsoft has decided to prioritize its teams to improve Windows 11 gaming performance, specifically for devices like the Asus partner device, Project Kennan. And they say here that it's possible that the existential threat from SteamOS, which on paper delivers better gaming performance than Windows 11 itself, has informed these decisions. Now, there is something interesting when it comes to SteamOS. I made 2 videos talking about this. The first video I made was going over the whole thing that came out from Dave 2D, where he was showing the difference in the battery life of SteamOS with the Lenovo Legion GO S versus the Windows 11 version of it, playing Dead Cells, a relatively light 2D Metroidvania game that shouldn't be too hard on the system. It should give you decent battery life. SteamOS was giving 6 hours of battery life. Windows 11 was giving 3 hours of battery life, which is kind of absurd for a game like that. And a lot of people thought that this was Windows bloat and that this was just simply the fact that SteamOS was doing something much better. And then you had the Fox TV on YouTube come out and show that this was just simply bad optimization on the manufacturer's part by changing the power draw, the wattage from 15 watts for Dead Cells down to 6 watts. You got the same amount of battery life. So that's basically what it was. But the issue there is a lot of people just, when they pick up a gaming handle, they don't want to play games. They don't want to have to tinker with this stuff. And that's where I think Windows 11 PC gaming on these handhelds needs major improvements, where you're launching into it and it feels more like a console and you're going to get the best optimization and performance out of it right out of the box. And maybe that's what they're looking at here in terms of making sure that the Windows 11 gaming PCs don't have issues like that in the future. The other thing here is SteamOS is very, very good. And they're now going to partner devices. They're going on the Lenovo devices, and they've actually opened up SteamOS where you can just download it and put it on different things. And I'm sure we're going to see more Steam partner handhelds in the future from other manufacturers. So they're getting ahead of Xbox in terms of what they want to do. And Windows 11 itself is being outperformed by it in a lot of people's eyes. They need to get ahead of that, or they're going to lose a lot of market share, I think, in the PC handheld gaming space, and it will be very, very hard to catch up. So maybe that's what's going through their minds here. It does kind of seem like that, but the reality of the situation is I was kind of right in my first video. They hadn't shown anything about the Xbox OS. I thought that they needed to show something and get this announced sooner rather than later. And now I know why they hadn't shown anything, because they are putting it on the back burner right now and focusing on something else. Kind of what I was thinking. And here it is confirmed in this article. Also goes here and says, our sources have indicated to us that Microsoft is still deeply investing in developing its own Xbox gaming handheld technology in the future. But it was announced internally today the priorities are moving more deeply towards third-party OEM handhelds in the interim. And Project Kennan is the codename of Microsoft's partner Xbox handheld with Asus. And they say here, we understand that Kennan is targeting a launch for later this year. The hardware side is essentially finished, but there's a significant effort between Xbox and Windows teams to improve the experience on the software side. And devices like the Asus ROG Ally and Lenovo Legion GO already run on regular Windows 11, and the Xbox layers and apps have improved, but there's still a lot of improvements to be made. So they're just trying to get this Asus ROG Ally in the best place possible before they launch it. So they're taking the resources away from, I guess, the first party Xbox handheld and putting it towards that. Reality is, all that matters here is the software, the Xbox operating system, and what they do with that. If they just focus on that, they release that, and you can actually download that and put it onto different PC handhelds, that would be more than enough. I think it's kind of a waste of time if Xbox were to make their own handheld from Microsoft just to have the Xbox logo on it and then just run Windows 11 and have another PC gaming handle. I think that would be an absolute waste of time. So hopefully they aren't doing that going forward into the future. If they do end up making their own, they actually are going to be making their own Xbox operating system, as it indicates here in this article. They do continue to say here that
It's always been a bit unclear if Microsoft's handheld was designed to be a native Windows 11 PC gaming style handheld or more of a native Xbox console style experience, but we potentially now have the answer. It seems that it was indeed meant to be a device that could run full Xbox games. That is the key here. So that's the one on the back burner. But Microsoft has decided to prioritize its teams on the partner opportunity around devices like Canon, at least for now. So that is what I would be waiting for. More importantly, I'm waiting for the software of it. The hardware side, the actual thing in your hand, it's going to be the same as any other PC gaming handheld out there. It's going to be running similar internals. It's just going to have a Microsoft logo on it, but it's the Xbox OS that is the key thing when it does come to this. They also say here, which is pretty interesting, that they're working on next-gen Xbox cloud systems, which are now testing on Microsoft's HQ in Redmond, and the new cloud platform should bring its latency closer to parity with NVIDIA GeForce's Now service, and arguably which is the performance leader right now in cloud gaming. So when it comes to the handheld, that's where it is. We're not going to see a first party one from Xbox themselves with a custom Xbox OS here for, I think, a number of years. It may be 2027 when they do announce something else, some other piece of hardware out there. Now, with all of that being said, now this calls into question, what is the future of the at-home console? Is that still going to be in development? Is that still coming out? Last we heard, it is. And when we heard from Sarah Bond at the business update a couple of years ago, that is going to be the biggest technical leap. That will be something as well that's very interesting. In my mind, the handheld is going to be far more important next generation than the actual at-home console. So you would think that would be the priority, but as of right now, it looks like they are just going to be focusing on making sure that their partner devices are up to speed. So we will see what happens here. It's a ever-changing thing right now when it does come to the Xbox hardware. This is going to put a lot more doubt, I think, into people's minds as to whether they're actually going to end up making that first-party device, that first-party handheld, or if they're actually going to end up making a first-party console. I would love to see something here on June 8th for Xbox to clarify this even more. Not that they haven't been pretty clear that they are still making hardware, but it would just be great to see kind of a concept as to what the future is from their first party manufacturing perspective of these devices, and just to see how close they are to getting that full integration between console and PC where you get to access your entire catalog of games. Because that's what it really comes down to at the end of the day. Can you get that access to your console games and your PC games in one place in a handheld? That would be perfect. You could even think maybe they'll just make a Switch style of console going forward. That would have probably been just as good as doing these two separate devices that they are ending up doing. I think people just really want that full access to their catalog. So the discussion about Xbox Game Pass and the health around it, and is this good for gaming, is something that continuously does happen. I think at the end of the day, if you're a consumer, Game Pass is an incredible thing. The amount of games you do get in there, the amount of money you're saving from day one releases, third party and first party for $20 a month is phenomenal. You really don't need anything more than Xbox Game Pass if you just enjoy playing video games, a variety of games, and there's tons of great content in there. You will be set for a very, very long time. But across the industry, we've seen naysayers on it. And how does this affect the health of game development? Because yes, it does cannibalize sales to an extent. We don't know the huge effect on this on the actual development, because we've seen games do very, very well that have dropped into Game Pass day one. They've also sold very, very well. For example, Clair Expedition 33, that is one of the best games. It's going to be nominated, I believe, for Game of the Year. It sold tons of units. It was in Game Pass. A lot of people did check it out. It's been extremely successful. We have another game we're going to talk about here with Atomic Heart, which has been very successful, that did launch into Game Pass day one. So we've seen plenty of examples of games launching into the service, selling well, and being successful. But some executives still believe that it is not very good for the industry. In fact, it could be dangerous. Shuei Yoshida, who has given us a ton of great information ever since he did leave Sony, he's not really held back. And I love when he does his interviews because we always get something out of it. He's commenting here on Xbox Game Pass, also comparing it to PlayStation Plus and what he believes. Which one is ran better, and how is this in terms of health for the industry? He thinks it's actually dangerous. Subscription models won't advance
the industry. And this is what he says. This was an interview with Game Developer. He discusses how developers who are cozy with these services have an advantage and how it will become harder for third-party studios and indies to cross that divide. He explains, saying, if the only way for people to play games is through subscriptions, that's really dangerous because what type of games can be created will be dictated by the owner of these subscription services. That's really, really risky because must always be fresh new ideas tried by small developers that create the next wave of development. But if the big companies dictate what games can be created, I don't think that will advance the industry. And that is an interesting quote. I do agree with him to the extent that if subscription services are the only thing out there and the only way that you can play video games, that will not be good for the industry. But the reality is, as of right now, with Game Pass and PlayStation Plus, Nintendo Switch Online, all of these subscription services out there, you have that as an option. You still can go out there and buy your games. There's still physical games. There's still so many different avenues in order to pick up games. There's still great sales and everything from different launchers out there on PC and stuff. So it is just an option, and it has been very, very good for the consumer. But if it was the only option out there, yes, you would have the major companies dictating which games drop in there simply because they would want to increase subscriptions and want to increase their engagement. But that's not what we've seen at all. Specifically, Game Pass, because that's the one I know the best, because the one that I use almost on a daily basis. There's tons of variety. There isn't just multiplayer games. There isn't games that are forcing you to stay engaged for 100 plus hours. There's small indie games. There's multiplayer. There's shorter single player experiences. There's literally everything within Xbox Game Pass. So they have not been, I think, on the Xbox side of things, holding games back from dropping into the service. And in fact, we've seen a lot of health come out of it in terms of indie games that would have never been discovered, being discovered simply because it was on Game Pass and people played it and shared it around. And we've seen plenty of examples of games being very, very successful. So as of right now, I personally don't believe that these subscription services have been bad for the industry. In fact, I think they've actually been very good for consumers, especially with all of the other anti-consumer things that have been happening and all the negativity that we have seen with studios closing, games being canceled, prices going up. All of that is far worse, I think, right now than subscription services, which have been, I would say, a positive in the gaming industry. Now, he does go on here to talk about Game Pass and PlayStation Plus. He says Yoshida acknowledges there's an inherent bias when discussing Game Pass and PlayStation Plus because his long-time PlayStation association. So very cognizant as to where he's coming from, and I like to see that when these comments are being made. He says, but he believes PlayStation Plus is healthier because Sony isn't giving away first-party games for free immediately. The former president says subscription models need to allow people to spend money to buy the new games. And he adds here that after a couple of years, there won't be many people willing to buy those games at the initial price. So they'll be added to the subscription service, and there'll be more people to try those products in time for the next game in the franchise to come out. Now, that is the sentiment that's basically the same as what I believe what PlayStation has been saying when it comes to PS Plus and eventually putting their first party games in there. Why they don't want to do it is because they want to give people that opportunity to spend their money first and pick it up. And as a consumer, the reality is it would be much better if you could just play them. But maybe he's correct on that. We'll see in the next few years if this does change. Right now, Xbox has not backed down from dropping their first party games into the service. They're continuously doing it. None of that has changed. And I wonder if it will going forward if we start to see a lot of the sales drop off. But I think right now, when you look at what Xbox is doing, putting their games in their first party, their goal is drop it day one, increase subscription services, and then drop it onto PlayStation 5, Nintendo Switch 2, and everywhere else, and make up a lot of those sales that would be made on Xbox elsewhere so they can support and continue to do this. So when you see a lot of people out there complaining about Xbox dropping first-party games onto PlayStation, I do believe they're missing the plot as to one of the major reasons why they are doing this, and it is to be able to continue to support dropping those games into Game Pass day one for the Xbox ecosystem, which for me, I'm all for that. Continue putting your games everywhere. Make sure that you can get your sales in other places. If as a consumer and a Game Pass subscriber, I get to continuously play games day one and get better and better games going forward. So we'll see what happens as the industry continues to change. It's been pretty wild with the prices and with the layoffs and the game cancellations. But as of right now, I think from the consumer perspective, the subscription services are very important, especially with games going up to $80 and especially with the prices of consoles that are seemingly also going up. And in fact, with games that have launched into Game Pass Day One, as I said earlier, we've seen tons of success from a lot of games. One of those massive successes has been Atomic Heart. We have this here that the former Game Pass title Atomic Heart has been so successful, it spawned a new publisher, and there's more than 10 million people that have actually played the game. Here is what the CEO and founder of Munfish, Robert Bagratuni, had to say on this, saying, "For quite some time, studios and investors have been approaching us seeking support. We've decided to make this direction official. Powerhouse will only partner with projects where we see great potential to make noise, not just a handful of indie hits, but big and bold games that can set a new standard for quality and creative risk." And he goes on here to say, "What started as a dream has become a reality beyond anything we imagine. Thanks to our team's relentless dedication, bold vision, and unwavering focus on quality, we've achieved something truly special. We're incredibly grateful to our players for their passion and support. It's their enthusiasm that brought Atomic Heart to life." And that's huge success. I mean, for a game that I played, I was okay on it. Like, it wasn't my favorite game in the world. There was a lot that could be improved upon it, but it still met 10 million players. And I believe a lot of that has to do with the fact that they drop into Game Pass Day One. There's a lot of word of mouth spread about it. There was a lot of excitement about it. A lot of people who probably would have never checked it out played it because it was in the service. And now they get to expand and get bigger and become a new publisher to help put out more games for the industry. So to me, this is just another success of a game that's dropped into Game Pass on day one. All right, let's talk ZeniMax, because Microsoft and Xbox have reached a historic deal with ZeniMax Media. And this has to do with unionization, something that was a major part of these deals going through, that Xbox was going to allow unions to be negotiated and everything. Well, there is a new deal that has been struck here. They say ZeniMax Workers United CWA, the union representing more than 300 quality assurance workers at ZeniMax Media, has tentatively reached an agreement with Microsoft on its first contract. Specifically, this is what they say: QA workers from across the country continue to lead the charge for industry-wide change, and that there's going to toe-to-toe with one of the largest corporations in the world isn't a small feat. This is a monumental victory for all current video game workers and for those that come after. So this is the deal, and specifically when it comes to the deal, this is what they are looking for. They set new standards for the industry and include substantial across-the-board wage increases, as well as new minimum salaries for workers. And it includes protections for employees against arbitrary dismissal, grievance procedures, and adds a crediting policy to acknowledge QA contributions on video games. And lastly, it keeps previous agreements on how AI is implemented in regards to QA, which obviously AI is one of the biggest things here that a lot of developers are worried about, their jobs being taken over by AI. And I could definitely see that happening. AI is going to be very interesting to see how it is implemented into gaming. I think there's going to be some positive things that come out of it. And obviously there will be some negative things. I think people will lose their jobs to some extent, but I think it could also make the immersion of video games better. But at the end of the day, what we're seeing here is an industry in turmoil in the sense of the amount of layoffs we have seen. It's not stopping. We have another one to talk about here in this video. And the industry needs something in there for these workers to be able to actually feel somewhat secure in their position. And that is why they went out here and made this deal. So interesting to see if this will be followed by more deals that are being made. I think at Microsoft specifically, there's going to be multiple negotiations in the works, as again, one of the major things that came out of the ABK deal was they had to promise that they would allow for unions to negotiate. Now, this is ZeniMax, is different, but this is another step in that direction. And I think we will end up seeing more of those. Right. This week, we had the cancellation of the Black Panther game. Unfortunate. I was actually interested in seeing how this game would end up turning out. But it got canceled, and now we know why it has been canceled. So we have here from Jason Schreier. He says the cancellation was viewed as a shock to employees of the studio, and Cliffhanger reportedly had been actively hiring new employees, with the Black Panther game recently hitting a new internal milestone. However, despite hitting the milestone, there was frustration within EA. And according to Schreier's sources close to the game's development, EA executives were frustrated that the game had not yet left the pre-production phase after nearly 4 years in development. I laugh a little bit, not laugh, but like that's a long time. And I think this is one of the biggest things that is plaguing gaming right now is the length of time it takes to develop games because of the ambition of a lot of these. And this is what we have seen resulting in layoffs, closures, and cancellations. 4 years in pre-production for a game that is using a massive IP, which probably costs a lot of money. Then you're adding in all that development time in there. This game would have to do insane numbers here to be able to make its money back and be profitable. 4 years in pre-development and pre-production does sound like a long time to me, but that is why EA went ahead and canceled this game. They're just like, this is taking way too long. We're gonna just take the sunk costs now and not put any more money into this, and in hopes that we are eventually going to make the money back. And that's probably what they were doing behind closed doors before actually making this decision. Now, as to why it was taking so long, it began in 2021, but it was announced in 2023. And the studio had just started to increase its staff count. The report says that many of the workers at Cliffhanger had been hired within the last year. And Schreier says here that they were only with the developer for as little as months and weeks. And Insider Gaming has made multiple attempts to reach the studio for comment on how many employees were being moved to other studios and the exact number being let go. And as of publishing right now, there has been no response to this. And despite Black Panther being canceled, EA has gone on record to say there will still be 3 Marvel games released, including Motive's Iron Man. They say our partnership with Marvel remains strong and our multi-title long-term collaboration continues. So there will still be more Marvel games, but it's unfortunate this one did get canceled. It's also unfortunate that people are going to be losing their jobs. But I mean, at the end of the day, game development is just taking way too long. We got to get back to smaller games, maybe AA games, shorter development cycles. And I think that will be very important going forward to get some great stuff out there. And then also people will lose their jobs less if they can reduce the overall cost of developing them, and each game can make more money. That will help. But sometimes these games take forever to be developed, and then they fall flat on their face with all of the competition out there. It is very hard to have a massive, massive success. And that's why you're seeing stuff like this happen. Unless, of course, you're From Software. Even with mid reviews for Elden Ring, NightReign, this game is already a huge hit. Not surprising. I expected this. And I probably won't be checking this one out. I just don't have the time for it. And the whole co-op thing, it's not really up my alley as of right now. But Elden Ring NightReign sees 2 million players in one day. They say here, darkness fell over Limveld and 2 million Nightfarers rose up against it. Thank you for your support. So this is a social media post that they did put out. Instantly successful. It was like up over 200 and some thousand concurrent on or top on Steam. So yeah, this game has been absolutely successful, even with middling reviews, like average reviews. The game didn't get bad reviews. It was like 7s or so, which a lot of people look at that as just trash and they don't want to touch it. To me, I'm like, okay, that's a okay review. I mean, I'll probably end up checking it out if I'm interested in it. This one, I'm just, for some reason, not that interested in it. I was expecting better reviews though, but when I did see the 7s, I was like, that won't matter. This game is still going to do very, very well. It's From Software. It has a huge fan base. Now, Elden Ring kicked off a whole new crowd of From fans, and we're seeing those numbers play out here with the amount of people that have decided to jump in. All right. Now, when it comes to layoffs, Playtonic here has confirmed layoffs. They put out a post here, and I'll just quickly go through what is happening. Basically, they say what everybody else has been saying here, that they have to make these adjustments going forward because of the market and to basically stay sustainable. They say this is one of those messages we never wanted to have to write. We've all seen the recent years how the games industry has been changing, resulting in studio after studio finding themselves in situations where to continue to exist, they must make painful decisions that impact the lives of so many individuals and talented developers. Like others, we felt the knock-on effects, and after exploring every possible avenue, we've had to make the incredibly heartbreaking decision to say goodbye to some truly brilliant members of the Playtonic team. So they've let some people go. I don't believe we know exactly how many they have let go, but there are some layoffs here at Playtonic. It is really not stopping. 2024 was terrible for layoffs. 2025 has continued, and I wonder if 2026 will also continue this. But I foresee the rest of this year, we're still going to get more announcements like this. If you are somebody who pre-ordered your Switch 2 at the UK retailer Game, which this part's crazy to me because we are a week out from this, they are now canceling some pre-orders. You would have thought they would have canceled them way back. GameStop canceled pre-orders. I know when I was looking at pre-ordering mine on GameStop, I was seeing people's orders get canceled when they first went onto the sale for pre-order, but we're like a week away, so this is kind of unacceptable in my opinion. But UK retailer Game says some Switch 2 pre-orders have been canceled. They put this statement out and saying, statement regarding Nintendo Switch 2 online pre-order cancellations, basically saying we apologize for the recent cancellations of some Nintendo Switch 2 pre-orders, and we understand how disappointing this is, especially for those who have been eagerly awaiting their order. And we're currently working hard to reinstate as many affected pre-orders as possible. If your order was impacted, please know that we're doing everything we can, and we'll be in touch with further updates and the next step. So there's going to be a lot of pissed off people because it's so close to release. The weird thing about all this is the Switch 2, I do not believe is going to be very hard to get. I mean, we already know there's going to be inventory day one if you want to walk in and try to pick one up. I think Nintendo's handling this overall launch in terms of inventory in a way that they don't want to have a lack of consoles. They're not trying to create this artificial demand for it. There's no chip shortage or anything like that. So it's kind of interesting that they're canceling the pre-orders here, but I feel like if you want to get a Switch 2, you'll be able to get one relatively close to the launch period in the next few months after launch or whatever. I don't think this is going to be a PS5 or Xbox Series X situation where it's about 2 years before there is regular inventory, and a lot of that had to do with the chip shortage. All right, and finally, we got more information here about College Football 26, which I think is a good football game from EA. I feel like Madden has gone downhill over the last many, many years. But when they came out with the new college football game last year, it was really good. It was a lot of fun. I was very happy to see it. And now we have some more information here on College Football 26. They did a reveal for it. And here are some of the biggest new features coming to the game. So there will be the addition of real coaches after they weren't in College Football 25, the ability to play in high school within the game's Road to Glory mode. And regarding the coaches, the game features over 300 real coaches. Aside from those two features, it will also introduce cross-play online dynasty, which is awesome to see. Thousands of brand new plays to various playbooks within the game. And then there's many other things that will be coming out here. But this game will be similar to 25, which the sports games are every single year. I think they'll make some nice changes to gameplay. Adding in the cross-play online dynasty will open up how many people you can actually potentially have a dynasty with. And I just hope they make a small little refines here because they have a good base here for college football, which in my opinion, you can't really say that's the same for Madden. I think that game needs to be built from the ground up. But anyways, I'm excited for this one. I will be checking College Football 26 when it does end up dropping. But I'll end the video there, guys. If you did enjoy this video, make sure to hit that thumbs up. If you're new here, hit that subscribe, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. Bye.